I left the office at 10 p.m. last night. I was finishing a market analysis report.
And your team?
They left at 6. The report was my responsibility, but they could have done 90% of it. I just couldn't risk it.
Risk what?
A mistake, a small error, something not being perfect. It felt faster, safer to just do it myself. But as I was driving home, I kept asking myself the same question. Why can't I just let it go?
Because you believe the goal is to produce a perfect report.
Of course it is. That's the job.
That was the job. Now your job is to build a team that can produce a perfect report. You're trying to win a new game using the rules of the old one.
I don't see the difference. The report still needs to be perfect.
The difference is your role. You're still acting like the star player, trying to score all the points. But your job now is to be the coach. The coach doesn't run onto the field to score. The coach creates the conditions for the team to win.
But being the coach feels slow. My most common thought at work is, I could explain this for 20 minutes, or I could just do it myself in 10.
And that thought is the perfect trap.
Why is it a trap? It's just math. 10 minutes is less than 20.
It's a trap because you're only measuring the first time. The very first time you delegate a task, it costs you time. That is true. It feels inefficient. And because it feels inefficient, we tell ourselves it's a waste of time.
Exactly. My time is limited. I have to protect it.
But that logic fails over the long term. You save 10 minutes today, but that report you did last night, is it a one-time task?
No, it's a quarterly report.
So you will do it again in 3 months, and 3 months after that. You saved 10 minutes yesterday, but you signed up for a 4-hour job every quarter for the rest of your career.
I never thought of it like that.
You need to stop thinking about time as something you spend. You need to think of it as something you invest. When you take 20 minutes to teach someone a task that saves you an hour every month, what is the return on that investment? It's huge. It's massive. You are buying back your future. The time you invest in teaching a skill doesn't just disappear. It produces a return, a dividend. In leadership, the time you spend developing your team will always have the highest yield.
A higher yield. Okay. So I am making a short-term investment for a long-term gain. That makes logical sense. But there's another problem, a bigger one.
Go on.
It's not just about time, it's about quality. I know the standard. I know what our director expects to see. I'm afraid that no one on my team can do it as well as I can.
This is the second trap, the expert trap. It feels true because you do have more experience. You have context that they don't have. And it feels like your responsibility to protect the quality of the work.
It is my responsibility. If the team produces bad work, it's my failure.
And this is why it quietly fails. By protecting the work from your team, you also protect your team from growth. You deny them the very experience and context you have. You create a cycle where they can never become as good as you because you hold all the important work.
So I become the bottleneck.
You become the ceiling. Your team's capability can never grow beyond your personal capacity. The goal isn't to create a team of people who do things exactly like you. That doesn't scale. The goal is to clearly define the outcome and then give your team the freedom to find the best way to achieve it.
You mean tell them what to do, but not how to do it?
Precisely. You must give them responsibility, but you must also give them control over their own method. That sense of control is essential for ownership. It's what separates renting a car from owning one. You treat it differently. You need your team to own their work, and ownership is impossible without autonomy.
Okay, so I define the outcome. For the report, I could say, the goal of this report is to give the director a clear view of our performance in the European market. It needs to be accurate, easy to understand, and it must highlight our 3 biggest wins and our main challenge.
That is a perfect outcome-based instruction. You've defined what success looks like. You haven't dictated the font size or the exact chart type. You've given them autonomy.
That feels risky. What if their idea of easy to understand is completely different from mine? What if they fail? If I delegate a critical project and they fail, that failure is still mine.
And this is the third and most difficult trap, the fear of failure. People believe that good leaders prevent all failures.
They do. That's why they're in charge.
Think about the captain of a ship. Does a good captain stay in port to avoid all storms? Or do they learn how to navigate through storms?
They learn to navigate.
Exactly. Your job is not to avoid all risk of failure. Your job is to build a system that can tolerate and learn from small failures. If you try to prevent every possible mistake, you create a team that is afraid to try anything new. You create a team of dependence.
So how do I build that system? How do I let them navigate the storm without letting the ship sink?
You don't just hand over the wheel and walk away. You build a safety net that isn't you. You agree on the final destination, but you also agree on checkpoints along the way. For a big project, you don't just set the final deadline. You say, the final deadline is in 4 weeks. Let's schedule a 15-minute review of your initial outline next Tuesday. Then let's look at the first draft 2 weeks from now.
So I'm not checking the work, I'm checking the progress against the plan.
You are reducing the risk without removing the ownership. These checkpoints allow you to correct the course early, long before the ship can go seriously wrong. You don't eliminate risk, you manage it, you mitigate it.
That makes sense. Mitigate the risk with checkpoints, give them autonomy on the method, and focus on the long-term yield of my time. But if this is all true, why do so many smart, experienced managers still fail at this? They get promoted, and they just keep doing their old job, just with more meetings. They burn out.
Because they are stuck in a deep belief about their own value. They believe their value comes from their personal expertise and their individual contribution. They rose through the company because they were the best analyst, the best engineer, the best marketer. And now suddenly the company is asking them to stop being the best player and become a coach.
And that feels like a step back, like they're becoming less important.
It can feel that way. It feels like you're giving away the very skills that made you successful. You're giving away your power. But that's a misunderstanding of what power is in leadership.
What is it then?
In your old role, your power was addition. Your personal work added value to the company. In leadership, your power is multiplication. Your ability to guide, develop, and empower 10 people creates far more value than your individual work ever could. You're not losing power, you're changing its form, from personal execution to team enablement. The multiplier effect, yes. And to do that, you need a system. The system has 2 core components, clarity and trust. You can't just have one. What do you mean? Many managers are good at giving clear instructions, but they deliver them with an energy of doubt. They check every 5 minutes. They correct tiny details. They signal, I don't really trust you to do this. The team feels micromanaged and never takes true ownership. I have definitely done that. Other managers are good at trusting. They say, I trust you, just get it done. But they don't provide clarity on what done looks like. They don't define the outcome. The team is confused, they guess what the manager wants, and they often get it wrong. The manager is then disappointed, and their trust is broken. And then they say, see, I knew I should have just done it myself. Exactly. The system fails. To make it work, you must first provide absolute clarity. You must stipulate the outcome, the standards, the deadlines, the purpose. This is what success looks like. But that clarity is cold and useless without the second part. Once you have provided that clarity, you must truly let go. You must show confidence in their ability. In short, you must entrust the task to them. Stipulate the outcome, then entrust the process. When you do both, something powerful happens. The clarity tells them where to go. The trust gives them the motivation and confidence to get there. The clarity is the map. The trust is the fuel. You need both to complete the journey. So all my old habits, doing it myself, checking too much, holding on to critical tasks, they came from a good place. I wanted to be responsible, but I was just being a bottleneck. You were confusing being responsible for the work with being responsible to do the work. I think I get it now. Real responsibility is building the system, being the architect, not the bricklayer. It's about creating the conditions for my team to succeed, not just succeeding by myself for them. And how does that feel? It feels bigger and a little scary, but it also feels like growth. It feels like the real work. So tomorrow morning, when I see a task I would normally do myself, what should I be thinking? What's the practical first step? Look at the task and ask yourself, is this a task I can use to develop someone? If the answer is yes, find the right person. Then sit with them and say, I need to entrust this project to you because it's important for your growth and for our team.
Start with trust.
Yes. Then you say, let me stipulate the key outcomes we need. The goal is X and the deadline is Y. You provided clarity. Then you add, my intention is to give you full autonomy on how you get there. The long-term yield on you mastering this is very high for us all.
So I'm explaining the why behind the delegation.
And finally, you build the safety net. You say, this is a high-stakes project, so to mitigate any potential issues, let's agree on 1 or 2 brief checkpoints before the final deadline. You make the system visible. You make it a partnership.
That conversation sounds completely different from what I do now. Right now I just say, can you please handle this?
And this is never clear, and the trust is never stated. So the person feels like they are just taking work off your plate. They don't feel like they are being given an opportunity to grow.
I've been measuring my days by how many tasks I finished, how many things I crossed off my list.
The manager's to-do list.
Yes. I think I need to start measuring my day by how many outcomes my team achieved without my direct help.
That's a different game.
A much bigger one.